I think getting comfortable is the death of creativity.
Welcome to Artist Date. I'm thrilled to have Matt Ramage on the podcast today. Matt is a photographer, creative strategist, and collaborator who's passionate about helping businesses grow through authentic storytelling. In this episode, Matt opens up about his path to photography, the lessons he learned from mentorship, and the importance of staying grounded as a creative. We discuss everything from building strong client relationships and setting clear boundaries to the power of systems and innovation in running a sustainable business. Get ready to be inspired by Matt's thoughtful insights and unique approach to creativity and business. Let's dive in. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. You're so admired in this town. Every time your name comes up, people are like, oh, Matt, he's so sweet. He's like teddy bear, and you truly are. And you're so wise. Like, you have so much knowledge.
You're going to make my head explode here.
Yeah, well, it's all true, and I mean it authentically. So thank you.
I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about photography, and we'll take a deep dive into some business stuff too, maybe.
Sounds great.
Because I feel like you have a very unique approach to your business, maybe more so than any other photographer in town. So I'm curious to learn about that and like how that all came to be. But first of all, maybe you could just start by sharing a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. I mean, how much do you want to know? We could do a little bit here, but...
Yeah, you can go as deep as you'd like.
Okay, well, I'll start with like the thing that makes me tick and like what I'm most inspired to do. I spend a lot of time thinking about this. And so for me, my passion is to collaborate with others, and I've kind of defined it into helping them build their life. And so functionally how that works is as like a job or a vocation, it's really meaningful for me to help people build their businesses. Because if you build a successful business, in turn, that has so many side effects, great side effects for your life. Entrepreneurship is challenging. And I think if you can kind of cross some chasms, have some success, it builds a lot of confidence. It gives a lot of meaning to people to follow a dream and build something that literally pays the bills and lets them serve the way they want to the world. So I've kind of nestled down in that. And so I just happen to be a visually creative person. Before we started rolling, SJ and I were talking about camera gear and video gear. And it's like, I like have a passion for tools and technology and like understanding how things work. And so I find visual communications like scratches a lot of itches for me. So I got to like play with toys. I got to learn about them. I also really like people. So for me as like a professional, like I have a team of 3 now plus myself. So I guess there's 4 of us. And so I like the collaborative creative process to work with clients, to have a team to work with, almost like a band, just a guitarist or just a drummer by themselves are, entertaining, but like when you get like a really good mix of people and talents and what you can make together is just very inspiring. So, yeah.
So what is your collaborative process with your associates? I'd love to hear the process from, say you get the client inquiry, like who gets that job, or do you all work on it together? What does your process look like when you get a job opportunity?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. So we've kind of narrowed our services into, like, we have headshots in studio, and that's sort of like our, like, cheeseburger. Like, it's our cheapest thing you could buy. It's also very, like, needed, and it doesn't need a lot of creative, like, we're not inventing something from new. We're taking a great portrait, and that's sort of like a recipe-based process. And, the creativity is sort of like how we light it. I mean, the way you light portraits, I think, is amazing. It's a recipe-based product, in my opinion. We'll still ask people where it's going to match where they're posting it. But then, if it has to go on a team page and match other team portraits, then we make sure it matches. So anyway, the creativity there isn't as high as, let's say, a brand campaign or a brand shoot. So the baseline, if you go on my website, you can book a headshot. If you pick any available, it'll pick one of our team members. Okay. And so it's not, like, it's pretty simple. Okay. When it goes to larger projects, then anything really bigger than that, we start with a discovery call. And the reason we do that is people will come to me and be like, hey, we need like 2 hours of photography. And I'm like, how do you know this? You're not even qualified to answer that question. Yeah. And like, where did you get that from? And then it turns into what they actually want. And what they actually want is to look a certain way online for a certain post or a promotion or a campaign. And so the call is really great because we got to take a few steps back and see like what their goals are. And that's one of the jobs I have, is that creative strategy. And then as far as shooting, if it's a video, then Darcy on our team is our lead filmmaker. So those projects, he really takes them, owns them, and then delivers them. Creatively with our team, we have a few values. Like our mission, if you go to our website, the word we use is we tell stories that help you grow your business. And so that's sort of our angle creatively. And so like start to finish with us, our job is, in my mind, is to tell the story of our clients and on the way help them be authentic telling that story. So being most them, and I think that's why even I like my own personal development, because I find me understanding who I am the most helps me serve others the best. Right. And I try to translate that into the conversations I have with people, discovering like, where's the thing you like to do? Like, what's the thing you like to do? How do you like to serve people? The thing that makes you tick is where you're best positioned to serve others.
That's so true. It's not a one size fits all approach, which I think a lot of photographers maybe get caught in that trap where it's like, oh, okay, they just want a 2-hour shoot. They walk in, they have their wardrobe, and you do what you normally do. But I think it does go a lot deeper. It is like having that clear understanding of what the need of the client actually is and who they are and what they want to say and who they want to speak to. And it really is I would say it's even a collaboration between you and the client to make sure that you're on the same page to really deliver. And so I don't think a lot of people take that time beforehand to really dive deep into that. So that's kind of a unique value proposition that you bring for your clients.
Yeah, and like there's a drawback to it where it's like it's more expensive to be able to serve that way.
Yeah.
Like we need more time, so we need to charge more.
But people appreciate it. People appreciate the time, and I think they value paying a little bit more to feel understood. And like for me, I definitely would. And, you know, I wouldn't expect a low rate if someone is taking that extra time and that extra step in service to treat me for what I need, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in contrast, a passport photo is a functional. You'd be surprised, actually. I don't know. I probably get 2 phone calls a day. I could probably pay my rent off passport photos. Not joking.
I get those too. I'm
you
like,
do?
I'm sorry. Do you want to pay $300 for a passport photo?
I'm like, well, and it's, you know, it's like we could, but
yeah. No,
we're not. That's not exactly what
you're... Go to 8th Street, Dawn's photo between the hours of 10 and 6 p.m.
Literally. That's what I say every time. We're like, have you heard of Walmart?
Yeah, exactly.
Shoppers Drug Mart?
Yeah. I know. Actually, there was one day I just happened to show up at the studio. It was on a Sunday, and I saw someone lurking around the door of the studio. Like, it's a locked entrance, so you have to enter a code. And I was like, oh, I wonder, like, who's this person trying to reach? And he's like, I asked him, and he said, oh, I'm trying to get my passport photo taken at Whitespace. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we don't do that. And I was like, wow, how many times does this happen where people look up the studio and they think it's, you know, like I guess maybe a traditional photo studio where people, you know, just show up for their portrait? Or I was like, oh, that's an opportunity for me to like clear up with the public that we're not open like all the time.
Appointment only.
Yes. Yeah. I need to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start at kind of the beginning for you. So I'm curious to know when you knew photography was like the direction that you wanted to pursue for a business. What did that journey look like for you?
I went to you could call it a graphic design school or graphic design program. And I've always had a passion to be able to work on digital media. So I actually thought I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was in high school. And then I also liked graphic arts. Like I was the painter, drawer in high school.
I loved that too. That was actually the class that kind of like really sparked the passion for me too.
I didn't like photography though, because it was film.
Interesting.
And so I had not, like I did photography class, but then after grade 9, I just switched to just art and drawing and graphic arts. Yeah. Fast forward that to after high school, I did a graphic design. They called it new media, a new media program. So it's kind of like you dabble in, I'm going to mention a bunch of apps that no one would know, but like Flash, it was all Adobe products, but it was all based on design and web development and Photoshop and those kind of things. And then during that, I was like, photography would actually be a way for me to make the kind of quality work I want without being so overwhelming. Because videography, like now it's still really expensive, but you can make really good stuff on a budget. But back then it was just like photography was like the only way I saw that you could make a world-class sort of product. And the only limitation was me. And so I was like, I should be a photographer. And then I didn't want to go to school. Here's an anecdotal story. I asked for my grade in this, so it was called New Media Campus. The program was called New Media or something. At Christmas time, we had finished first semester, and I asked my teacher, his name was Ian. I was like, what's my grade? And I was trying. Like I cared about it. I tried hard. He's like, well, I can give you 100 if you want. I'm like, well, what did I earn? Because I really wanted to know. To tell my dad, and I just wanted to know, like, what had I earned? And he told me a thing that stuck with me ever since. He said, no one cares about your grades. They care about your portfolio. They care about what you could do. And after that, I kind of had this epiphany that was like, he's very right. And so I was like, okay, it's like the only value at this school is the skills I'm learning. That was it. And then so fast forward a few months later, I was like, yeah, I should be a photographer. And then I was like, I'm not going to school again. It's like a fortune. And I wasn't really in the position to do that. And so I phoned a photographer I knew. His name was Stuart Kasdorf. And I was like, can I work with you for free on the weekends just to learn?
It's amazing so you're our third guest, and Stuart came up in the previous show as well. I should have him on. Is he around still?
He's still around. He doesn't do photography.
Stuart, you should call me. We'll chat.
Who mentioned him?
Tammy.
Okay.
Tammy
well,
Zadudnik.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, because she started around that same sort of era that he was, he kind of ran this town in terms of business and being the go-to and kind of that influential leader for photography. Do
you remember his things in the Center and 8th Mall?
Yes.
So I think that was one of his best marketing campaigns.
Yeah, wow. That's so unique. Like, I would never think to do that.
Well, I remembered seeing his portraits there and then the little write-up. And it was kind of like a mix of museum and then editorial photography of families. And that was all I knew of him. And I didn't know him personally. So I phoned him up. I was like, can I work with you for free on the weekends? And I'm sure you get this all the time too. And he's like, no, but we have a full-time non-paid apprenticeship. And I was like, bingo, that's free school. And it was 9 months. And I was like, that's free school. And I just had to wait till my wife finished university. So I waited about 8 months, and then I actually did it. I quit my full-time job and I worked with him for free.
Wow.
And that was sort of the start. And he told me later on, I was the only person who actually one other person took him up on the offer, and I'm the only one who finished it. And then he hired me on for a couple of years afterwards. But that was my master class. One of the, if you were going to talk about a lucky break, that one pivot in my path was the best choice I ever made. And, I get a lot of people wanting to work for me and have me hire them and pay them. And I'm like, and yet then I saw it as so valuable. I would have paid him to work for him,
What was the greatest learning that you received from him in that time? What was if you were to think of an overarching sort of thing that you really value to this day and that kind of shaped who you are as an artist and a photographer and a business owner, what would that be? In
hindsight, so the other path I see myself have maybe taken would be an academic way to be an artist or a photographer. And everyone I've talked to that's done that route, it's very artist based. It's very to make art. And what I learned while working there was the advertising and commercialization and capitalization of photography. Like, I learned how you would make money from doing it. And I always liked magazines like Vanity Fair, Annie Leibovitz. Like, that's the things that kind of inspired me. So working with him was like a direct route to starting that journey. You know, to just go make art that goes and sits in a museum, very different path. Also, I think it's very challenging to even make a living from that artistic only side.
I think especially back at that time, like today is a different time where we have all these platforms and these ways to kind of like showcase our art and reach out to kind of gain those opportunities. Or I think a lot of it starts by even seeing that opportunity. And I know like when I first started, that wasn't like something that I even knew was kind of possible. So you would consider him mostly your mentor?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the last job I ever actually had as like an actual job. And it was the best job I ever had. Like, we had so much fun. We traveled together.
Yeah.
Like, it was really good.
So after that, then you started your own business, and were you just like a solo photographer at that time?
When I started with him, I had started my own. Like, I was kind of simultaneously, like, the idea of this apprenticeship was to prep me for my own thing. And then he just offered me a job at the end, at which I took on the conditions that I could keep doing my own thing. So I was never his associate shooter.
Yeah.
Probably if he did that, I would have never left. But it's just like, that wasn't their model. And so eventually it came to a point where like I needed to leave to fully do my own thing. It wasn't long. And then I met my friend Jana Gobet, and then we collaborated. And I've always had that passion of being a collaborator to work with people. So then it wasn't long before it was more than me.
That's kind of why I love doing like fashion editorial work, is like the whole collaborative process, like getting all these hands on deck to create something amazing, because it's like I could never create something like that on my own. Like, I really believe in a team and like learning from each other. And so that's just great to hear that we share that in common, because I really do believe like you just learn so much from others.
Yeah, well, okay. And now you made me think of some. You just had your Pro Photo collaboration post, and I saw that on your feed or on Pro Photo with that final photo with everybody who made it happen. Yeah. Like your team, the dream. It's always like #dream team or something. I don't know what it was for that one. But like, that photo represents, like, I assume when you look at that, you smile.
All of those people had a part and a role to play in the final product. Like, yeah, I couldn't have done it myself, right? Like, it wouldn't be possible. And I think it takes maturity in like realizing that, and kind of like it kind of like humbles a person, you know? I feel like, now I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I know I've read a lot of books on like Vogue photographers in like the 90s, and they would get like first class tickets, and like they had like these massive, massive egos. And I just feel like when I see my team and work with them, I always feel like it's not me. It's like the team that creates it. And it's just such a contrast to, you know, what we would consider like the great photographers that would just like get these dream jobs and take all the credit. But really, there's like so much that goes into the behind the scenes to like create these amazing shots, and they deserve credit.
Well, that's funny. I remember seeing, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was like Annie Leibovitz would go in. She didn't light it. She didn't even pose it and stage it and plan makeup or hair or outfits. And she just goes in and pushes. Literally, she's going and someone's handing her a camera. Apparently, they don't even own their own cameras typically.
Right. They get handed like a Phase 1 or
Hasselblad.
Hasselblad, medium format. Yeah.
And so, yeah. But you see like the hero. And I think there's like a desire to be, you know, that.
Of course.
person.
Like, we all want to have the spotlight on us, right?
Yeah.
But there has to be a bit of a balance.
Well, yeah. And I read this book about Steve Jobs and the way he did keynotes. And he had this rule, like he would always share the stage. And so if you ever you probably watch Apple keynotes, SJ. I don't know. Do you watch?
No,
when Apple comes out with new computers and stuff?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's been a while, but.
So they do this thing, and Steve Jobs, I think it's a Steve Jobs thing, but he always shared the stage. And so the rule was like, he would invite someone on from the video game company to show a new game on a phone, or the new person from Intel, or his team members. And those are part of their legacy to this day when they do their events. It's not just the leader showing the thing, it's bringing other people in and showing that it is collaborative. And I don't know, especially in a business world, like collaborating and showing posts, now they're more shareable. There's this other thing too. It's like, if you want to do whatever you want in the world, as long as you don't need credit, you can do kind of whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's this politician who, this is really recent. I saw this on like a podcast or something, but they were talking about like, when I realized I didn't have to take the credit, I could do anything I want, because then they didn't have to take the pressure, positive or negative, and they could just do their thing. And I think that's inspiring to me. It's just like, I'd rather just stay in my lane, do my thing.
Well, and don't you feel like we're not good at everything? Like Quentin Tarantino, he really gives a lot of credit to the people he works with. And he's like, you know what? If you want to have this great product or great result, you have to put the best people in those positions in order to get that end result. And that takes a lot of humility, but a lot of maturity as well. And a lot of like, he just has that clear vision. He knows what he wants, and he understands like, you need the best team in those positions, and those positions are what those people do best.
Well, and then having that belief that you're not the best at it all also opens you up to, like, if you
learning, right?
If you do believe that, you'll always hire people and think you're better than them, or work with people thinking you're above them, and then they'll never be able to be empowered to be fully creative themselves. Yeah,
that's kind of I think that's a place where you can easily get stuck, like creatively, and sort of plateau as well. Like the minute that you think you know everything, you're behind, like the world is changing. You have to stay on top of things, and you have to be open-minded, and you have to be willing to learn from other people in order to succeed.
I 100% agree. So I have a business coach. So we talk twice a month, usually Mondays. And it's funny, like the thing you're most gifted at, you'll endure pain and pleasure equally to do the thing, because it's the thing you like to do.
Yeah.
One of the drawbacks is you'll become good at it. You'll become potentially known for it. And then what can happen is people will start to infatuate with you, for lack of a better word. And one of the things you have to be careful of, in my opinion, as a creative, is that ego thing, because it definitely feels good for people to recognize you and give you credit. But it's like, if you let that be like sort of the motivator. No, yeah. My coach calls it a false god. Yes. It's like you start taking the thing you're inspired to do and then doing it for that reward versus that intrinsic value of being a creative person.
Right.
And that's where in my opinion, that's like where burnout starts to happen. That's where you lose your creative voice. It's where you get into ruts, like you stop reinventing yourself. And it's also where literally if you found success, if you go that road, your revenue will start to drop, because you're not being that creative innovator that you've been.
Not pushing. Yeah. What would you say is your creativity killer?
Business management.
Interesting.
Like having to manage a business definitely consumes a lot of my brain.
Yes. Yeah.
My energizer is people. If I got to be around people, I don't even have to do it that often, once every few months or whatever. Right. That can inspire me enough to really keep it going. But the killers, the day-to-day, I would say that's actually my biggest struggle as an entrepreneur, is learning to delegate more and more. And as the complexity of our business has changed and continues to change, when I fail to delegate properly, literally for bookkeeping, for some reason I'm paying my team via e-transfer. It's been years. I pay their payroll every 2 weeks via e-transfer. It's I could use Payworks.
I do the same thing.
Okay. But it's now it's I actively have to do it. And, and I have to email the hours to my bookkeeper. It's why don't I delegate these things? There's reasons why, but it's eventually you get pushed enough where it's so frustrating you end up moving there, where I could have just maybe done that maybe last year. But
so how much of your week would you say is consumed with like the running of the business versus the creative? Is it like the 80-20 rule? Like 80% is spent managing your business and 20% is creative? And would you like that to switch?
have you read the book E-Myth?
You know what? I do own that book. I haven't read it.
Basic, like if you don't read it, the whole thing about it is it's better to work on your business than in your business. And I think that's the thing. When I'm doing payroll, I'm not working on it. I'm working in it.
Yeah. The busy work.
Yeah. Like
right?
it's important,
Yeah.
but it doesn't drive success or growth or sales. I think if I was able to even do 20% a week, I'd actually probably feel good about that. I actually find it really hard to go into the studio. There's 4 of us there now. It's hard to do the work I need to do at the studio, but my brain also never shuts off. So it's like, I'm always thinking about it, whether I'm there or not.
Right. So you almost find it like a draining thought, the idea of like going to work in the studio maybe because
it's rewarding because I get to see my team and that fills that social thing, that collaborative thing I need. If we get stuck in business management mode, that can be challenging for me.
It is exhausting because you're constantly thinking of like what needs to happen, where you want to be, and then also trying to like manage your clients and make sure that they're happy. There's so much that goes on in a business.
Yeah, like my emails. If I go sit down and do emails, like that's a management thing, right? Like meeting with a client, very different, very fun for me. Good to chat with them, doing lunches with people.
Yeah.
Strategy sessions are fun, but then once it comes to emails, you know, oh, hey, we have this project next month. We need a photographer. Can you please provide a quote?
Oh, don't you find that somehow exhausting? Like I would say I even have like a template written and then I just have to like edit it. And I'm still like, I don't want to.
Well, then we have to go on this journey of like...
Yeah, back and forth. And
we just need a few photos. I'm like...
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does a few photos
exactly.
mean? We got to convert this into time I need to spend, how much editing it requires, what you really want.
Are you a believer in systems? Like, I think you need to have systems as a business owner, but do you have any systems in place that have saved you time?
Yes.
Yeah. What is your process?
I bet you'll agree with me here. You use HoneyBook for
I use HoneyBook,
booking.
yeah.
I use a software called Acuity Scheduling.
Oh, yeah.
Automated
I do too
scheduling.
for the studio. Sorry, go ahead.
You use Acuity?
For studio rentals, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
People who are urgently in chaos are bad customers for me.
Yes.
Because their own lives are in chaos. They tend to bring that chaos wherever they go. And by having just the barrier of you have to book a discovery call for most projects, kind of gets rid of those urgent requests, and then there's less chaos. And then you're only working with people who are kind of thinking a little bit more ahead. And then as far as systems go, making it so like you wanted to do a podcast with me, you sent me a link to book. You've now avoided having to say, does 10, 11 work? And then I don't get back to you for 2 days. And then you've booked, I say 10, but then you've already booked it. Like that kind of back and forth is so ridiculous.
It is.
And so having software to do auto booking, like, or you have like an office manager who can just answer the phone and handle that. But yeah, back and forth emailing is so lame for scheduling. So giving links out for booking, like basically if we did a project together, we would figure out how much time's required. I would send you the link to book that appropriate amount of time and you just book it whenever you want.
Right.
We bill after for most of our things, but so those links aren't public links on my website. And then you can just book whenever you want. I never have to talk. Like as far as scheduling, I only get to talk about creative. So systems on auto scheduling, we probably have 100 appointment types.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot.
And it's all integrated with our calendars. Like if you book a headshot with me, you can't book one with Melissa, let's say on our team, or Karen. Like because the studio is now a resource that's used, but you could book one with them on site. And so then we have, like, it's just so much better.
Do you have like a top 3 like subscription or software programs that you feel like you couldn't run your business without?
Running the business, for sure, the scheduling. We use QuickBooks Online for invoicing. I don't know if it's the best or not, but it is very nice, like making invoices and people can just pay. So that's really nice too. Like the credit card just gets, if they pay with credit card, it just gets paid. Money goes into my account a day or two later. That's awesome. What other business ones do I use?
HoneyBook, I guess.
I don't use HoneyBook.
Okay.
Acuity handles.
Okay. So you use Acuity, not HoneyBook.
Sorry, yeah.
CRM. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But, well, I wouldn't even say Acuity. Acuity is a CRM. CRM stands for, if you don't know, customer
Client relation management.
something like that.
Or customer relations.
Maybe I should have
You guys
that.
can comment below if we're wrong or if we're right.
I think it's right. I don't know. I don't use a proper one like Salesforce or something like that. But okay, so we use that, and then we actually use Trello for our workflow.
Oh yeah, Trello's great. We use Trello too.
So
It's free. Well, there is a free version.
we have so far been able to use Trello completely free.
Nice.
And so we use it to manage. Do you know what Kanban is?
No.
It's like a manufacturing process of like to do, doing, done.
Okay. Yes.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
So every job in our studio, if you know what Trello is, it's like these lists that are in columns beside each other.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own initials. So MR would be Matt Ramage. So to do, doing. We have
Done.
we have an extra one called stalled.
Okay.
So it's like if the ball's out of our court,
I'm
Goes
going to
installed.
add that one to our workflow.
you need stalled. So then it can just, you've sent the proofs, let's say for headshots.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. You could review that and bug them. But like it's not in our job is to get it out of our lists.
Right.
But yeah, we use one card for a job with templated checklists. And so we've spent the time, you're talking about processes, this is a good one. So it has like the same checklist. I really believe in like the clients you really like, you tend to serve them the best. And so I have this value to like treat everybody the same because I don't feel like I should get less service if I'm just because I'm not your favorite. You know what I mean? So we made our checklist based on like how we like to serve our favorite clients. So everybody gets a fair treatment. Because I think everybody deserves our best. So anyway, the checklist is there of like just what we go through. And then we just move that card around and it's nice because it has responsibilities and we just move it to the ready needs invoice. That's what my team does. And then once a week I go clear those out, move them into completed, send all the bills.
Nice.
But it's really the best way we've ever found to do project management. So we're not dropping the ball. Because the volume of projects we handle is quite large and so many of them are so vast in complexity. Like a headshot's so quick through the system. Where a video project is just like we started a project in, let's say, June, and we're almost done it now. And it's not because it's slow. It's just that's how long it's taken to film everything. And so we're in our final stages of drafts and finishing it. And it's like, so it's nice to be able to track that and like kind of know where we're at, know if it's late. We put due dates on everything. So anyway, Trello is amazing and free. And we don't have any requirements to get anything beyond the free one. So.
And then you use Photoshop and you don't use Lightroom. You use
Adobe Camera Raw. It's the same engine.
Okay. Yeah. I've actually talked to a lot of photographers lately and they still use that. Or like, not still. They use that.
It's got some perks. So for video, we use DaVinci Resolve for all of our video, which is another great program. You guys use it, right?
Yeah.
The free one does almost everything. It's ridiculous. The paid one, I think you might have to buy, but it's like a $300 one-time fee.
Oh, wow.
Like where Adobe's $76 Canadian a month for the whole suite.
Yeah.
The photo only one's like 20, but yeah, so we use DaVinci Resolve for our video and then for photography editing, and we use Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw. The perks to that is in our studio, 3 of us could go load up a wedding, let's say. We could actually all edit it at the same time. That's the difference. There's no catalogs. Lightroom uses a catalog, and I don't like it because it doesn't let you move to different computers very easily. And if you lose the catalog, the work's in the catalog. That's what I don't like. And then we use Photo Mechanic. If you've heard of that, I think you use it. I think I saw a video or Instagram you made about it.
Oh, did I?
I can't remember. I saw something, I thought. Or maybe we just talked about it.
Maybe it was Capture One has this amazing cull feature, which is very similar to Photo Mechanic, but it's built into the software.
Okay, so maybe I'm mixing stories up. Photo Mechanic, we literally used to cull.
Nice.
It is, you could have it on like the crappiest old Intel-based MacBook Air, and it would out-cull a $6,000 brand new MacBook with Lightroom on it.
How does the software work exactly?
So your camera, when you take a picture, if you shoot RAW, it makes a preview file.
Yeah.
Embedded in it. It's like, it is a JPEG.
Yeah.
So when you hit play on your camera, it's actually not reading the RAW, it's reading the JPEG.
Okay.
So it's this preview file. Photo Mechanic reads the preview file, and it's like a small photo. So you can like
flip through it fast.
Click through photos really fast.
There's nothing worse than culling a wedding or something like that, and you clicking to the next image, and it takes like a few seconds to pop up. Been there. But I don't shoot weddings anymore. Do you shoot weddings?
I still do.
Yeah.
I'll still shoot as many as people will book. So
I remember I second shot a wedding with you, and you're great to work with. And I learned a lot from you. Yeah.
When was this?
Could have been like 7 years ago. I'm not sure.
Why am I forgetting this?
Because there was one time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But I remember working with you for a wedding, and you had mentioned that you love shooting weddings and that you would like to shoot more of them. And honestly, you kind of seem like you would be Mr. Wedding. Like, you are just a bubbly guy. You like the working with big groups. So I feel like that's a really good fit for you.
I like high pressure situations.
Yeah.
And a wedding day, an editorial shoot. Like when you got one shot at things.
Right.
I would almost equate it to like performing. Like you're on, you're doing it, people are trusting you.
Yeah.
Feels very like I like light up in those situations. Plus weddings are just fun.
Yeah.
They're hard work. So
they are hard work. It's a lot of work to be a wedding photographer. Do you feel like you've made any mistakes running a business, and what has that taught you?
The biggest problem with like having any level of like success is like it stops me from making as many mistakes because you start to do something that works. And I actually think the creative process is a process of making mistakes is kind of a funny word for it, but like, yeah.
I know what you mean. I know what you're trying to say. Like just being open to maybe it not like performing well, or people not liking it as much as maybe you like it, or relate to it.
Maybe you edit differently. Maybe you lit it differently. Like,
yeah.
And so there's that, even with weddings, actually, like I don't really deviate. I try to like a little bit, but I don't really deviate too much from what works. And so I have to push myself to do that. And I think getting comfortable is the death of creativity. And so you kind of go in these ebbs and flows, or I feel, and then you kind of have to reinvent whatever that means, like kind of redefine who you are, what you do every once in a while. Other mistakes though, like actual mistakes. One of the mistakes I make is I sometimes don't charge enough, or I don't define what's included and what's not. And I get, those are like financial hiccups, but then that's where I like learn. Like I've made some bad deals in business, and it's like, I tend to lean on the side of honoring what I say, but it can cost me quite a bit financially.
For sure. I would say boundaries, people overstepping. And that comes down to me to a certain point, not being clear with like drawing those boundaries, like people reaching out to me via text at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night, asking, either how to download their photos or like where their photos are. And it's like, what could I have done better to like mitigate that to make sure that I'm not getting upset at night when I'm going to bed. Like I would say that being clear on those boundaries with my clients, and also, undercharging is a big one. I feel like I would bend over backwards sometimes and just not. I guess I've really become okay with saying no. And like, if I'm too expensive, that's okay. Whereas I was fearful of that.
We could talk like an hour on just like that. Okay, well, then that gets into like valuing yourself.
Yeah.
Which, okay, so here's sort of my thought of it is like creatives tend to, I've already mentioned it, like it's the thing you like to do. So you'll like pleasure or pain, like how many people say they would do it for free? It's just like, it's not good for anyone if you do it for free, because then it's not sustainable. So yeah, there's this thing with valuing yourself, and no 100%. One's going to do it for you. And there's always people who want a deal. I read a book. It was called Expert Secrets. And it's like, there's no advantage. Have you read this before?
I also have that book, have not read it. But I got to read more.
Yeah. This is what I consume myself with.
It's like about like...
sales.
Yeah. And the workflow, like, wasn't that the guy that started the... ClickFunnels.
Yeah. There's no advantage to being the cheapest because it's so hard to be the cheapest. Mm-hmm. But there's actually a lot of advantage to being the most expensive. And so, because it gives you a different way to be in the market, and it's easier to poise yourself as an offering.
Yeah.
Because if you're the cheapest, like you also attract, in my opinion, the worst clients. Mm-hmm. But when you start...
And they expect the most. So not only do they want like rock bottom prices, they also expect like the service to be exceptional and for you to be answering text messages at 10 p.m. at night on a Sunday.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's funny, the more you charge, the more people trust you.
Yeah, it kind of has this respect thing. It's this weird psychological effect where, it does take a lot to get to that point, like a lot of confidence and belief in yourself, like you said. Like I remember the first time I raised my rates and I told somebody, I like had a pit in my stomach. I was like, ooh, I wanted to vomit. But then once they're like, yeah, for sure, that makes sense. I was like, oh, great.
And then they probably became a long-term client.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So really, you're absolutely right. Valuing yourself and believing in yourself, trusting yourself. But yeah, I would say that it took me a long time to learn that.
Well, in this industry, for example, like a lot of people just like, they start out and they're like, what does everybody charge? Okay, minus 30%, bang. Yeah. I do the same thing. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. That's like a reasonable way to start out. It's just like, that's just like a starting place. And then you have to mature into valuing yourself exactly as you are.
Yeah.
And then be surprised. Like I charge more than Stuart charges for everything he did. And I remember thinking, eesh.
Yeah.
Like
it's this kind of weird feeling, but I think you kind of gain that confidence when you know how much it takes to run your business. So you can confidently speak to your clients how much it is going to cost, because that's how much it's going to cost.
Well, and it's optional, right?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Don't need photos.
Right. And it comes down to service too. Like it's more than just like a walk in and walk out passport photo. How can you give your client the best experience so that all they can talk about is you? All they can talk about with their family and friends and be excited to share their images and just talk about how wonderful the experience was. Yeah, it probably cost them, but they understood that it's an experience and they felt valued and walked away with an exceptional product.
Well, okay, so have you ever shopped in a Louis Vuitton store?
No.
Ever?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I went into one for the first time. Did a trip to South Africa, and we were in this mall, and I looked in one. My wife's like, I would love a bag, and I'm like, okay, like, let's see what these cost. I was like thinking maybe there's something for under $1,000. And then the only bag I liked, I just saw it, and I was like, that one, that's the one I would buy if it was me. And I look at the price, and it was like 13,000 Canadian dollars. And I was like, that's insane. But it's also like someone buys that because they not only like that item, but spending that kind of money is also part of it. And I think one of our values as a brand is like everything we do is like white glove service and sort of like luxury. Like if you buy a Bugatti or Ferrari, like the mechanics, or Rolls Royce, you have a problem, the mechanics go to you.
Yeah.
You don't schedule in the thing. You know, you don't bring it to a garage. Like,
Right.
And I like, as far as metaphors go, it's like those are more fun for me to have a business that's served that way.
Right.
And so like giving that white glove service, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, this is part of my creative process, is like how you serve a client is just as creative as like the imagery. And in my opinion, as a creative, if people like you, whatever you make will be more likable.
Right.
And if you make a bad experience for someone,
Yeah.
no matter how good what you made is, they won't like it as much. And there's a whole thing, like if you ever, there's a thing in Japan with bonsai trees, the story of how complicated it was to make that bonsai tree.
Oh.
They had a name for it, but like that's part of the price you're buying. Because
Right.
when you see that tree and like it, I'll always tell you that story. And so you gotta like, it's important to like connect all those things to the way we have service and the way people buy things and the way people, you know, spend their money.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, money is a very emotional thing. Like it's hard to let go of it sometimes if you're not valuing what you're getting or, you know, buying.
Well, and then you only need a couple customers to have value that, like, you know, one of our things is like everything we make, we want it to be very aesthetic. How good it looks matters.
Yeah.
And then we attract those people also where they value aesthetics. I'm assuming you would attract the very same types of people. And so they already are poised better to be a better subject in front of the camera. They're already wearing better clothes.
Right.
They already do their hair more often. Like if I just give free photos away, like, and someone doesn't shower and wear clean clothes, it doesn't matter how good of a photographer I am. Like that collaborative process is one-sided. I've done I've done my part with being good and knowledgeable and how to do my job, but they haven't brought their part to the table of, you know, aesthetically bringing themselves, like getting sleep, cleaning their skin.
Right. And I think a lot of that comes down to education, like educating our subjects or our clients. But sometimes I've run into the situation where I can educate them all I want, but they still show up with their arms in a bundle of like a wrinkled pile that was sitting on their bedroom floor.
Okay, I got one more story. Okay. This is why we never give away free headshots or photo sessions ever. So we get asked to like donate stuff for charities and things like that. And often it's like, can you donate a session or something? Because they're not my client, they just want it. Every time we've ever done it, it's been such a bad experience because they're not choosing us. And that difference in type of client, like we're not collaboratively coming together to make something great. Like people who see my work and like it, they like it because like they like also the subjects in the photos, and then they come kind of poised to get a good result. And these free headshots, like, I mean, half the time it's like, hey, can we convert that to a family session? I'd like to bring my dog. It's like, you're deviating from what it is. You're valuing it. And plus they probably only gave like $50.
Right.
Like I may as well just donate my own money to these events.
It's like more of a headache when you're in this giving spirit, you know, and then you almost feel like you're shit on in a way, or like, pardon my French.
But actually,
it's not actually French.
Yeah, I don't give away anything because it's not a fair exchange for me. So
right. Well, it takes maturity to learn that. It takes time and confidence to know to value yourself. So what's next for you? What do you hope your next 5 to 10 years will look like as a business owner, as an artist, as a person?
These are all deep questions. Like when you say that, I just did a quarterly, yearly, 5-year plan a couple weeks ago. And we're definitely heading that vision of helping businesses grow is very inspiring to me.
So when you say helping businesses grow, are you talking about with their imagery, or are you talking about like their bottom line?
It's a great question. Like bottom line with imagery. Okay. Bottom line with good brands. So we're becoming brand builders, in my opinion. And so like everything I do, from the books I read to the YouTube videos I watch to even the functionality of how we serve our clients, we really look at, like, let's say you were a client of mine. I'd be like, what do you want? Well, you want to book out your studio more. You want to book more portraits. You want to become, an ambassador for different brands. You want to build your YouTube channel. So that would be the baseline of like, what is your goals? And so this is what I want to do for all my clients, is like, what's their goals? Because they want to get somewhere. They want to grow. That's what I would use. They pick where they want to go, and growing is getting closer to there. And that can, you get halfway to somewhere, maybe you want to pivot. Right. That's fine. So asking those types of questions and then seeing, does our service support that? Maybe it's overpriced. Like we have a price to work with us. So certain companies maybe aren't a good fit. So we figure out if we're a good fit, if the price is even worth it. And then I would say we're kind of becoming an agency. Yeah. Like that's the direction we're going.
That's really exciting. I could talk to you forever, but I realize you have a business to run and operate.
Yeah, you always leave some on the table.
That's right. Till next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Artist Date. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a rating. It really helps more creatives like you discover the show. Don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Artist Date Podcast for behind-the-scenes updates, inspiring content, and more. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Can't wait to connect with you again soon.